Hello and welcome to today's MSI 2024 recap, where we're going to go over day 13 between T1 and Team Liquid. Then we will preview BLG and Gen.G. Something to go over a little bit here, the last couple days with the G2 stuff. A lot of people in the comment section trying to place expectations on me. I think that's kind of funny. You may think I'm an analyst. You may want to say I'm an analyst, but I've actually never claimed that title. So when people do that in the comments or they try and argue with me in this way or that way, it's interesting. I had somebody even comment this morning on the video from yesterday, and clearly they didn't watch the video, which when I do believe that people don't watch the video, I will troll them in the comment section. Full disclosure, I mean, there's somebody in the Discord yesterday that brought up a couple points and a couple, replies I did on the preview video or the prediction video or whatever. And I'll be honest, if you don't watch the video, and I don't think you watch the video, which based on how long the video is and the average in which people watch the video, I can make a safe assumption that you probably didn't watch the whole thing. So the way I look at it is, if somebody isn't willing to listen to my opinion to completion, I'm not willing to listen to their opinion to completion. Because when I talk to somebody in the world, in real life, I don't know if you guys do that. When I talk to somebody, I listen to what they have to say, and then I say what I have to say. And that's kind of how a discussion actually transpires. You don't just kind of TLDR conversations and then try and pose what you think is being said into the comment section, whether you agree or disagree. So that's just something I've noticed. I think that's partially why we see that term fraudulent thrown around about players so often as well, to just relate it to league, because people put expectations and assumptions on people because they don't want to take the time to actually pay attention. They have these thoughts about people that just aren't true, and it relates to players as well. That they'll think, oh, this player is this good, and then the player will show up at the event and they won't be that good, and they're like, oh, they're a fraud, or Tian's a fraud. A good example, Tian. And I say to myself, no, Tian's a top 5 jungler in the world 80% of the year. And 20% of the year, he leaves a lot to be desired, but that's still an elite jungler. So I have my expectations. They're tempered. I understand going into an event, Tian, I think, can do his job, but there is a possibility for him not to. I'm going to hope that he doesn't. 80% of the time, he doesn't. So it's an interesting deal here. You got people just spewing a bunch of just shit. And then I'm going to milk them in the comment section. If you're watching this, I'm going to milk you in the comment section if you're one of the type of people to comment without watching. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to feel bad about it, and I'm going to keep doing it, because there's one thing for sure. In videos, I'm pretty straight up. I'm looking into the camera. Might be low quality, but I think I'm the guy that kind of proves to everybody that you don't need a high definition camera to have beyond 1440 or 4K or whatever the fuck. And I'm also the guy that says, anybody can go up here and do this. The difference is, people want to spew their opinions in the comments, not listen to mine, but then also don't have the courage or the gumption or the I don't know, the hell, they're just lazy and they don't want to do it. Because I'll tell you, I'm doing low quality content. There's nothing holding you back, right? So if you've been on the channel for a long time, you'll know that these videos actually are based around recaps. I'm trying to recap the series. So if people want to say, oh, you're an you're analyst, this, that, and it's like, well, I'm just recapping the games. Yeah, I give my opinion on the games, but I don't claim to be an analyst. Do I give my opinion on the numbers? What do I think of them? Yeah, because I compare them to other numbers, and I use nuance when I want to use nuance and when it makes sense. So, we have a lot of new viewers, so this spiel had to happen. I don't really care about the like to dislike ratio. You know, when people comment and get upset, it actually boosts the algorithm, which is why I do milk the commenters, because it's going to boost the algorithm. And yeah, it might only get me a couple dollars here or there, but hell, it saves me a coffee the next day, and that's worth it for me. So, Team Liquid T1, sloppy series by both teams. Team Liquid, that's to be expected, but T1 needed to really play better, and it Game 4 was dominant, but the first 3 games were a trip. So, Game 1 at 14:30, it was clear T1 were going to take APA's Aurelion Sol out of the equation. They went mid lane 4 times in the first 14 and a half minutes. Team Liquid only attempted 1 play, and personally, I felt like TL really didn't make many gank attempts. There were moments where they would like send 3 men to a lane, to kind of like push Zeus off a turret and things like that, you know, when the lane swaps were occurring, but I don't consider that as much of a play as like a gank or a dive attempt, which we saw T1 do quite a bit. At 14 and a half minutes, Zeus had a 900 gold lead. Faker had a 1.1k gold lead, 35 CS ahead, and he was dominant in that game. T1 in general were dominant in that game. They had 2 Barons, almost averaging 3,000 gold each. However, Team Liquid did emphasize Drakes, and throughout this series, I felt like they really had good objective control relative to T1. It was split for, I mean, when you look at all 4 games, it was 11-10 in Grubs and 10-9 in Drake. So it wasn't one-sided at all in that regard. But when team fights came to be and came to pass, more often than not, T1 got the better of TL in this one. Zeus with a big part in that. The last 3 games, he played Vayne top. And that's another thing. I mentioned his game 1 being ahead so much. It was the other 3 games that he played Vayne. So range top, I mean, let's take it for what it is with the lane swaps and things like that. Impact was, you know, trying to die to get XP, and I think that happened in game 3 to start. So that matchup was interesting. Zeus did get the better of Impact. Zeus was a great team fighter throughout the series, but the stats are a bit misleading. I will say Yeon Core JJ did have a lead in Game 1 at the end of laning phase, 300 gold, 17 CS, but once the team fights transpired, T1 had good control. They won the key fight to ensure that TL wouldn't have a chance at Drake Sol before they ended the game. Game 2, very slow. I don't have any ganks to really mention. Maybe I missed one. Maybe I wasn't paying attention looking at my phone for a second. It was a slow game. At 15:30, laning phase ended, and actually there were kills, but it was skirmish related. And as a result, we had a 14 CS lead for TL's bot lane, but not a gold lead. 8 CS lead for APA, but not a gold lead. So Faker, Guma, and Keria finding gold elsewhere, whether it be plates or kills. And then the top side, only a 100 difference. Like, it was very close game 2. It could have went either way. It was a long game. I think this was a 44-minute game. And it resulted in 7 Drakes. The Elder being what won it for T1. Which, I mean, for TL to take T1 to Elder, I think that's kind of indicative of how rough the series was for T1. I mean, this is pretty lopsided when you look at it on paper, and for it to go to that distance, it's kind of concerning when you look at the last 3 teams and the fact that they aren't really being put in those situations. At least we didn't see that this year, this MSI. Both teams got a Baron, and both teams' Barons, frankly, sucked, totaling 263 gold combined. Very, very useless siege when it came to those 2 Barons. Blowing them and not finding any use for them. Grubs were also split 2-1, so a game where not all grubs were taken. That's a very minor amount. It might be only 10% of the games at this event. Now, game 3, TL would take this one. So T1 were in a good position at the end of laning phase at 10 minutes. So very quick early game. Zeus had 600 gold, 23 CS. There's lane swaps and this and that. And T1's bot lane had 1k gold. But TL were in a good spot. And TL won the fights to be able to take Baron. They snuck a Baron, were able to utilize that Baron well, and then take another Baron and win the game. They averaged about 2,300 gold per Baron. In terms of plays, once again, T1 went mid lane to try and put APA in a hole, and frankly, it didn't really work all that well. They only had a 100 gold lead for Faker, at 10 minutes. So how effective was the time spent there? I mean, that's in part probably why they struggled to win this one, because TL took all the grubs. They took the Rift Herald. I mean, the siege potential was crazy because of all the Void mites, because of the Rift Herald, and because of the Barons. Like T1 just didn't have enough priority on that side of the Rift and couldn't win the team fights when they came to pass. So Team Liquid find a way to at least get one game, not go home empty-handed. I had this one 3-0, so Team Liquid overperformed my expectations. Game 4, this was a blowout by T1. Despite not really executing many plays in the early game, at about 10:45, there was over a 1K gold lead in 3 of the 4 roles for T1. Yes, Vayne Top is going to have a lead, but Faker also had a 1.2K gold lead and Guma Carrier 2.5K. And it was a Senna Ornn bot lane. They did that twice in games 1 and 4. T1 took all 6 grubs. They took a Rift Herald. There were only 2 Drakes taken in this game, and they ended with Baron with about only 260 gold. So it was kind of funny. They were so dominant that when they ended the game at like 24 minutes, the Baron was like what was there to take left? You know, they just kind of like sieged right down lane and said, screw it, we're done here. And, you know, they didn't end up getting gold from, which is something interesting and something to think about when we look at the Baron numbers at the end of this tournament, who were the most efficient on the power play and who were most efficient at slowing teams down with the Baron. So, in terms of plays, Team Liquid made 3. Like I said, personally, they were very... There was not a lot of commitment relative to T1. Owner went... Well, not only Owner, but Carrier did as well in the Nico game, where I think where he was Camille, or maybe it was just Camille's... I think the first game... Was it Camille and then Nico? Because they just played Camille. So Camille and then 3 Vayne games. So Ornn might have been another game for Carrier. It wasn't game 1. Because Camille was game 1. And they went mid lane. I think it was Carrier on Nico pretending to be Camille. Either way, very active in mid lane 9 times. Like, clearly they were going to put Faker ahead of APA. Part of me wondered when I was watching the first game, that did APA say something in the all chat before the series started? I know he said he wasn't going to say nothing, but it did make me wonder if it kind of made T1 feel a certain way. And they're like, we're going to put this guy, essentially, metaphorically speaking, in the grave in this series. In terms of grubs, like I said, 11 to 10 in favor of TL. TL also had 10 to 9 in Drake, so they had the better prio on the objectives. They split Rift Heralds 2 to 2, and they actually had better Baron sieging. Now, like I said, the 260 gold Baron might as well be non-existent, in which case you take that away. T1 do have the better numbers, but when you include all of them, 1,582 gold on average for TL, and 1,558 for T1. T1 had 4, TL had 3. Big stat. So Faker, 21, 9, and 19, 29% of damage in the win. Guma, 18, 7, and 32. His Varus games, he really was able to find a way to stay alive, especially in game 2. Very efficient. And I think game 2 was an interesting one as well. Team Liquid, I believe that was the Samira game. And it was a great pick into T1's composition. So that was something maybe we'll see before this season, this MSI is done. Are we going to see G2 maybe pick it, or BLG or Gen.G, or hell, T1? Guma, I believe, plays Samira. APA, 14, 16, 24, 32% of damage in the loss. He did get to play all 4 of his most played. If you take away Tristana's not 5th most played, then it's top 4, and Ari and Talia are the other most played, along with Ziggs and Aurelion Sol. So, in the end, he played like 4 champions he should be comfortable on, and he went 3-1. 1-3. So, that's the thing. I will say, I thought Yeon looked good at times. Like I said, the Samira game really stuck out to me, and it was a moment for me to be like, okay, Yeon has definitely taken a step forward in development. And some people say, oh, you're kind of late on that. And I am not a reactionary individual when it comes to determining hierarchy of teams, players, and things like that. If it's only been like under double-digit amount of games, something's been going on, I'm not going to give it as much credence as when we cross that mark. Because in the end, some people have good days, some people have good weeks. Other teams have good days, other teams have bad days. So I need to see some consistency, and I need to see a lot of solid games played. Because a lot of people want to say about G2 that I wasn't respecting them and this and that. And it's like, I'm going off the fact that G2 haven't beaten an LPL team since 2019. Earlier? 4 years. So it's been a while, right? Whenever they last beat one. And this coaching staff had not. This team also, before this event, in my opinion, I said in the preview video, did not showcase the champion usage that they showcased last year, which is something that I gave them a knock for this year, because last year I felt like they utilized those champions more. However, now that they're utilizing those champions more, now I look at it and say to myself, okay, they have brought back the area that I felt like made them a difference maker last year that I felt like they didn't have this year. So that's a thing. Also, I will say, regarding that G2, people brought up the Ivern thing. Top Esports should have been prepared for Ivern. That was a pick that happened a couple times this year. It's one of Yike's best champions when it comes to stats. So, back to TLT1. T1 win, not a surprise. Preview. BLG Gen.G. Last time they played last year at Worlds, BLG would win 3-2. Only one matchup remains the same because Gen.G now have Keen instead of Doran, Canyon instead of Peanut. Mid lane, BLG have Yagao instead of, they got rid of Yagao, now have Knight. And support, Lahens is in and Delight is gone. So Elk and Pays is the matchup. Due to a Senna game, I cannot use laning stats. So Elk, 18, 9, 27, 29% of damage in the win. Pays 20, 9, and 15, 32% of damage in loss. So for people to say that he gapped Pays at Worlds, I think that would have been quite foolish given the stats, right? And what actually freaking transpired on the Rift. Now, let's look at draft. Let's look at how these teams are being banned, how they're choosing to utilize their bans. And there's a lot more overlap in this one than there were in the first two matchups. So, in top lane, we only have 3 bans. Rumble and TF tend to be banned by BLG and against Gen.G. So are we going to see Rumble and TF banned tomorrow? I think it's a good possibility because Gen.G normally don't get to play it and BLG don't want to play into it. So that might be 2 guaranteed bans right there. And then Kesante is a ban against Keen as well. But Ben does play that, so I doubt it'll be banned as much. Or who knows, maybe he values the pick very highly and he does ban it. Jungle role, Vi. BLG tends to not be able to play Vi. Vi is banned against them. But in addition to that, Gen.G tends to ban Vi. They don't like playing against it. So if it's banned against BLG, Gen.G don't like playing against it really throughout this tournament, then one could argue that Vi is a pretty likely ban tomorrow. Wukong and Sejuani also banned against Shun over this deal here. And Xin Zhao is a... Oh, no. Yes, that's right. That's right. And then Gen.G also banned Xin Zhao. So, in the jungle, Wukong Sejuani banned against BLG. Xin Zhao banned by Gen.G. So we'll see if what junglers end up getting banned, right? I doubt we're going to see Wukong, Sejuani, and Xin Zhao all banned tomorrow against Shun. In the mid lane, there are 6 champions. That's where the bulk of this comes from. So, in the case of Azir, it tends to be banned by BLG as well as Orianna. Orianna also tends to be banned by Gen.G. So are we going to see Orianna pick her banned tomorrow? I think it's a good possibility because both teams tend to ban it because they think it's real strong. So either both handshake to let it stay up and first pick it or whatever, or they both ban it out. Azir being banned by Knight, not a shock. He doesn't like playing it. So, get it out of there. If I'm Gen.G, I do not ban his Azir if you're Gen.G. Ari tends to be banned against Knight. Knight and Chovy both have cracked Aris. I think we went over it in the Discord. Knight has a 87% win rate, 19-2 in internationals and playoffs over his career on Ari in 55 games. Chovy in 38 games has like an 83% win rate and 12-5 internationally and playoffs. So these are two of the best Aris in the world, and we'll see if it gets picked. Now the other three mid laners, Tristana tends to be banned by Gen.G, and then Asol and LeBlanc banned against them. So we're going to see which ones go through, which ones don't. LeBlanc is another pick that isn't very good for Knight. I realized that when somebody tried to compare his Azir to Faker, Zarelli, and Sol when Knights played Azir 14 times and Faker first time day Sol at this tournament. I thought that was a weird comparison. But neither here nor there. That is what it is. 80 carry, only 2 bans. Senna is a very common ban by Gen.G. It's either banned against them or by them. So Senna is not an option in their games, which is interesting. And then it's also banned by BLG. So are we going to see Senna tomorrow? I don't know. Both teams do not like playing against it, that's for sure. And then Varus is a ban against Gen.G. Support Nautilus and Ashe. Nautilus tends to be banned by Gen.G and against BLG, so we might not see Nautilus tomorrow very much. And then Ashe is a ban against a ban against BLG. So will On's Ashe be banned tomorrow? We'll see, because Gen.G really haven't been messing with it at this tournament. So this series, of course, is a marquee matchup. It might be a preview of what's to come in the finals of MSI. Just an example of why I might hate double elim. If BLG beats Gen.G now and then Gen.G beats BLG in the finals, I would be furious. So, yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord. Become a YouTube supporter. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.